to join us on this stream as we see the bands who are approaching, having brought different groups of the streetliners, half companies, the drum major wearing the sash of the Irish Guards following behind him, the band of the Irish Guards with their buttons in fours and wearing their St. Patrick's blue plumes. They will form up beside the band already there from the Coldstream Guards, and it'll be a day of some music. And for the Guardsmen who you'll see, they will have been up very early this morning going for runs in order to wake them up and get them ready for this long day of military parade. And the music that will be played will reflect the history and story of the Grenadier Guards in particular, who will be trooping their colour. So they'll be forming the escort for the colour, which is number 1 Guard. And later on in the parade, they will collect their colour, troop it, and then pass by the King on his official birthday in slow and quick time. So the markers are out with their company colours, and also the sergeants are waiting for the arrival of the 6 guards who will take their position. And coming down to inspect them is the Garrison Sergeant Major Vern Stokes. He has been doing this job for a number of years. He also organised both the funeral of the late Queen Elizabeth II and the coronation of the King. And if anyone's eye concerns them, it is that of the Garrison Sergeant Major. He's talking to the sergeant, checking that the details are right. At a later point in the parade, number 3 Guard will open up for the arrival of the carriages conveying members of the royal family who are not taking part in the parade. Guests are filtering in. There are stands all around Horse Guards Parade that are built especially for this parade each year. And the Welsh Guards Band coming up, the mall now, and through a part of the mall that's being protected by the cavalry, the line cavalry. On the left there, Major James Kelly, who's the regimental adjutant of the Scots Guards and the regimental adjutant of the Coldstream Guards. It's a great view across Horse Guards towards Admiralty Building, and it was from that building and from the radio masts, you can see them still, that messages were sent to the fleet across the world during the Second World War. And they're passing now by the roof of where the King will sit in the dais, and that will be put in the central point once the carriages have arrived. The 2 chairs for the King and Queen and for the Princess of Wales. And there is Horse Guards Arch itself. And above it, you can see the canopy in front of the windows where members of the royal family will witness the parade, as they have done for centuries, from what was the office of the Duke of Wellington. The Duke of Wellington, who was also Colonel of the Grenadier Guards for a time, and it is the Grenadier Guards who will troop their colour today. For the United Kingdom, this is a major day. It is the annual recognition of the nation, and it is reflected in the monarch's birthday. But of course, the King's birthday is in November, and parades never do well at that time of year. So as the Garrison Sergeant Major, Mr. Stokes. He's pacing out his parade ground. He's probably also looking to see quite how dusty the gravel is today, because they do send a water sprayer around. And he's having a chance to talk to the band of the Irish Guards, Colour Sergeant there, who will have been responsible for making sure everyone was ready to come on parade today. Just about hear his voice, in fact. And you'll see amongst his medals, he has the Order of the British Empire and also the Royal Victorian Order, those first two crosses on his extremely impressive medal bar. Also, an enormous number of military engagements he's taken part in. You can smell the cordite from the medal bar of a serving soldier with that amount of experience. And cavalryman there, corporal, holding his lance, as the next line of those taking part in the street lining come up. The Major General commanding the Household Division is making his way into Buckingham Palace, and he's accompanied by his team. Major General James Bowder is also the Regimental Lieutenant Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. He commanded the Grenadier Guards, so in a way there's a very special family link for the day for him too, going in through the centre gate. And it's from that centre gate that later on the King and Queen will emerge to go and receive this birthday parade salute. And it's for young and old today. You have children excited and they see everything. And of course for parents, it's a matter of making sure they stay interested throughout the day. And amongst the officers there from the Irish Guards and the Coldstream Guards, you can tell by their buttons. Buttons in fours for the Irish, buttons in twos for the Coldstream. And the Royal Air Force, who are lining the route here. Their light blue uniform, new to a day of the King's birthday parade. So a great deal of preparation for those guardsmen to get their boots ready and to make sure that everything is shining perfectly. And there's a lot of time goes in to those ammunition boots. And normally there are 13 studs in the base of every boot. But now, with the addition of a 14th Victoria Cross for the Grenadier Guards, they have 14 studs in their boots. And they will be reflecting today particularly on the death on the 13th of June of Lance Corporal James Ashworth, who on the 13th of June 2018 was killed, showing immense courage in Helmand Province. He was awarded the Victoria Cross. And as the guards now come onto Horse Guards, the first of the guards is number 6 Guard and number 5 Guard. Number 6 Guard is formed by 7 company Coldstream Guards, and number 5 Guard by numbers 9 and 12 Guard of the Irish Guards. And they'll all come together. This is a reflection, was practiced and achieved so brilliantly for the coronation of the king, when all the massed soldiers, sailors, airmen and women who were parading came all together onto the parade. And we're seeing the colour that's going to be trooped to the right of the picture there, marching to take its position. And the colour is being carried by Colour Sergeant Michael Beasley, the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, and he's supported by 2 sentries, Guardsman Powell and Guardsman Gagan. And they will wait on their own until later on in the parade, when the escort for the colour will come and collect that colour and troop it. It is, as it were, the silent performer of this very significant parade. And there we get the first sign of the colour has just been unveiled. And the colour was given to the regiment on Tuesday by the King, and it shows the Tudor crown over an exploding grenade with 17 flames. Welcome, you're watching Sky News, and this is the King's Birthday Parade from Horse Guards in London. The Guards are arriving on Horse Guards for this, the 4th King's Birthday Parade, and it is a chance for the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards to troop their colour in front of the King to mark this national day and this official birthday for His Majesty. All 6 guards here on Horse Guards itself, ready for the preparation now to be complete for the arrival of members of the royal family and for the 6 guards to form the L shape here on Horse Guards. There's dressing and preparations as the drum majors will move to the rear of their bands. And the dressing generally is done by those in charge to make sure all the lines are perfect, and both front to rear and left to right. And the setting of Horse Guards, where in Tudor times there used to be tournaments for Elizabeth I, a tradition of our military story that traces all the way back to the 1500s. The Guards Memorial reminds us of the challenge to all those troops taking part to always be ready for battle. And Winston Churchill instructed that the damage that was done to this memorial in the Second World War was never fully repaired, in order to remind us of the dangers that the nation always faces. And there you can see the damage in the names as they're inscribed. And it's to this location that the king will come. He will leave Buckingham Palace at 11:15. And his procession will make its way up the Mall, down Horse Guards approach to Horse Guards itself. And Horse Guards building off to the right of the parade ground we'll look at a little later on as we see the officers of the Guards to the music Hazelmere. They will move into position. And we can see the ensign of the Guard with his white sash. He'll be carrying the colour later on. A very big day for that ensign. Second Lieutenant Alec Goshen, who will have been rehearsed very, very hard for today. And he will play his part. And they'll all move forward to create the L shape. Very like a Napoleonic battle, really. The music being prepared now by the bandsmen for the next part of this parade as the 6 Guards form the L shape. And imagine the battlefields of Waterloo, even of the Peninsular campaigns, as soldiers dressed in similar attire prepared for battle. Number 3 Guard, eyes front. Number 4 Guard, eyes front, as each of the Guards are prepared to march as one. Great opportunity for the families of those who are taking part to witness this as the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery come forward and take their position under the trees at the side of this parade ground. Normally they bring 6 guns onto parade, but today only 4. And that is in respect of the loss of Lance Bombardier Kiara Sullivan, who was killed taking part in the Royal Windsor Horse Show. She would have been taking part in this parade, and so, as a matter of respect to her, they've withdrawn her gun and the one beside it from this parade. The field officer in brigade waiting comes to the centre of the parade ground on his horse. On the parade ground, we will have the word of command to bring the parade into the L shape as we watch Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith riding Jumping Jack at the start of his command of this King's Birthday Parade. And they're now doing their dressing again, all looking over to the left to make sure they're in position, shuffling slightly. And very shortly, we'll hear the command eyes front. And all the way along, all the bearskins will flick into position from one side to the other. It's worth listening to the shouting and screaming that goes on as the sergeants tell everyone, forward a bit, back a bit. Let's listen. Let's listen for the eyes front. And we can see the layout from closest to us is number 1 guard, or the escort for the colour, then number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 guard, and then number 6 on its own, stretching out to the right, where the colour waits to be trooped, guarded by the sergeant, and all the non-commissioned officers take their positions, as do the last of the guests coming in, people who've been held up coming into London, no doubt. And very shortly from Buckingham Palace, we will see members of the royal family who are coming to witness this parade will be leaving from the palace in due course. And also, in order to enable that, number 3 guard will be opened up in order to enable those carriages to come through. Here we go. The field officer and brigade waiting to the music, Hazelmere, has opened up number 3 guard in order that there is a route for members of the royal family not taking part in the parade to come in their barouches. Here they come, leaving Buckingham Palace. The Duchess of Edinburgh and Sir Tim Lawrence, and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. These broughams were designed for speed and elegance at the end of the 18th and into the 19th century. Meanwhile, through the gate of Buckingham Palace, you can see that the field officer is waiting for the king to climb into his carriage, ready for his procession to leave at 11:45. As Horse Guards waits for that arrival of members of the royal family. It doesn't take very long to come up the distance. The barouches of the number 1 barouche with the Duchess of Edinburgh and the husband of the Princess Royal, Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence, will arrive shortly. And as they do so, they will come through number 3 guard, and then the first half of the national anthem will be played in salute for them as they go under Horse Guard's arch and will then alight and go upstairs into the Major General's office. The mounted band of the Household Cavalry moving into position with the divisions of the Sovereign's escort moving into position in order to escort the King's procession to the saluting base, to leave him there at exactly 11 o'clock. The 1st and 2nd Division of the Sovereign's escort, formed by the Life Guards, wearing red tunics and white plumes. And meanwhile, we're watching number 3 and 4 Division. But back at Horse Guards, ready for the arrival of the royal family coming up the Mall. The Duke of Edinburgh is Colonel of the Scots Guards. The Duchess coming to watch her husband play his part. And in the 2nd barouche, the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. The Duke of Gloucester's father was Colonel of the Scots Guards. As a boy, he used to come and watch this parade and see his father playing that part. Meanwhile, at Buckingham Palace, the Sovereign's escort waits. And the King's procession is on its way from Buckingham Palace. The King's Guard at Buckingham Palace, saluting as the King and Queen leave the centre gate. King dressed as Colonel-in-Chief, the Grenadier Guards, and the Queen as Colonel Grenadier Guards. Only yesterday, the King visited King's Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, since King Charles II. There has been a special relationship between the Grenadier Guards, who were his bodyguard at a time of great peril, founded abroad in Bruges, where they closely defended the King and protected him at the Battle of Worcester, and that relationship continues to this day. And in the second carriage behind the King will be the Princess of Wales, but also arriving now at Horse Guards to receive their salute. We'll listen as the first half of the national anthem is given in salute to the arrival of members of the royal family. Members of the royal family will give a nod to the colour, which is uncased and waiting to be trooped on the far side. And it will receive salutes at all points during this parade. It is, as I say, the silent performer in this Trooping the Colour parade. Members of the royal family gone into Horse Guards parade. And it's now time for number 3 guard to be closed up again in order to recreate the scene that we saw originally created. Officers getting into position for that move. So putting the dais into position now that the royal barouches have gone through into Horse Guards. Doesn't take very long. It's very carefully engineered and rehearsed, as everything is by the Garrison Sergeant Major who supervises the plan. Meanwhile, number 3 guard has reformed. And the procession making its way up the Mall. Lifeguards with their red tunics and white plumes coming through that part of the Mall that is being protected by the Royal Navy for the first time. Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith from his saddle, organising everything to be ready for the King's arrival. And when the King reaches Horse Guards Parade, he will receive his first salute and the full national anthem as the King and Queen now make their way up the Mall. The Queen, as Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, carries on in a line that included the Duke of Wellington and also Prince Albert, the Prince Consort to Queen Victoria. She's wearing a uniform that's been adapted for her with the white horsehair plume that we will see the Grenadiers wear. The full length of the Mall has been marked with Union flags as members of the royal family, with the Princess of Wales, Prince George and Princess Charlotte. Princess of Wales, Colonel of the Irish Guards. So when they arrive, Guards, the two children will alight from the carriage and go and watch the rest of the parade from the office of the Major General. And the scene is almost set for the arrival of the King and Queen. The dais will be used after the King has done the inspection of the line. And the parade is prepared. And if the timings have gone correctly, then as the clock strikes for 11 o'clock will be precisely the moment that the King is delivered by this procession to the entrance of Horse Guards building on the parade, and there he will receive his first salute. There's Horse Guards building on the right, where the saluting base has been put in position. Led by Major Collis Smith and the mounted band of the Household Cavalry Regiment. And they will shortly be playing Crown and Reign, which he has written for this approach, as it's called, recognising the honours to the King and the tradition of trooping the colour, rooted in the tradition of its parade, and Reign, which reflects obviously the carefully ridden horses and their musicians. And leading on to the parade, the 4 best-dressed troopers. They have a competition to be in this line right at the front of the parade, following the Brigade Major, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Foynette. They are immaculate, each of them. The 1st and 2nd Division of the Sovereign's Escort turning into Horse Guards Approach Road as the band, who will take their position under the trees for the first part of this parade, being conducted by the composer, their director of music, and the youngest person present, I think, enjoying this parade. And there are the two wonderful drum horses, Perseus and Apollo, with their hefty drums, which we will hear again later in the parade. And there they are. Kettle drums are immensely heavy. So the first and second division of the Sovereign's escort, lifeguards will take their position, peeling off underneath the trees, underneath the flags of the Commonwealth countries, reminding us that the King is head of the Commonwealth, carrying on a tradition started by his grandfather, King George VI, and carried on for the 70-plus years of her reign by Elizabeth II. Countries of the Commonwealth, which have so many communities here in the United Kingdom, who will recognise their flags from the countries of their traditions as the King and Queen come into the parade. And all the guests will stand as the King and Queen make their way to Horse Guards Parade itself. The King will salute, along with the Queen, the colour that he gave to the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards on Tuesday at a ceremony at Buckingham Palace, where he saluted the courage and bravery for 370 years of the Grenadier Guards since their founding for his predecessor, King Charles II. Everyone gives their respect to the colour. It is the soul and embodiment of the regiment. It carries the battle honours and it represents those who have served and gone before. So the King is not only visiting the opportunity to take this salute from his battalion as Colonel-in-Chief, the Royal Salute. And the King's procession now moves straight into the inspection, led still by the Brigade Major, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Foynette, and the 4 immaculately turned out troopers of the Blues and Royals and the Lifeguards. And we listen to the Guards Memorial, which was composed by Lieutenant Godfrey, who was bandmaster for the Grenadier Guards in 1856. As the King looks into the eyes of, first of all, his own guardsmen as the company commander of King's Company, who are forming the escort for the colour today, the words of the song that this music represents. They come across the wave from plain and city won, from peril both of field and foam. Oh, great the victor's home. And wake once more the voice of song. Ring bells in church tower grey to welcome back the absent long from home and hearts so far away. And following on from the King and Queen, we see the Prince of Wales, Colonel the Welsh Guards, in the middle, the Duke of Edinburgh, Colonel Scots Guards, and the Princess Royal, Colonel the Blues and Royals. And now we move into the quick inspection of the line to the tune Wentworth, composed for the King's birthday parade by a serving Grenadier Guards musician Little. Little known composer, but he's 21 years old, and let's enjoy his music. And the King turning now towards the dais at Horse Guards building. The King and Queen have inspected 4 companies formed by the Grenadier Guards today. 1 company of the Irish Guards, form number 5 Guard, and 1 company of the Coldstream Guards. The King, followed by his brother and sister and son. And also by the Princess of Wales in the second carriage. Princess of Wales is waiting at the dais. King wearing the uniform of Colonel-in-Chief of the Grenadier Guards. You can see the grenade in his forage cap. It has 17 flames from an exploding grenade, and it forms one of the battle honours earned by the regiment when they took the grenade symbol from the Guard of Napoleon at the battlefield of Waterloo in 1815. And for the entourage with the King, the horses now have to take their position and shuffle back towards the wall. It's quite a tight fit for all those horses and those taking part. And when the King is in position and takes his seat, the carriage leaves. The word of command, troop, will be given, and the mass bands of the Guards regiments will troop in slow and quick time, starting with the famous slow drum roll and first note of the perennial tune Les Huguenots by Giacomo Meyerbeer. And we will enjoy witnessing the profound brilliance of the performance of the bands. Les Huguenots has been the slow march every year since 1936, when King Edward VIII attended the only trooping the colour of his reign on his birthday, the 23rd of June that year. And actually, it's the last time that the King's Company trooped as the escort for the colour. And so all these years later, again, for King Charles III, the King's Company troops for a monarch called the King. Go to the quick troop, grenade fired proper, which describes the cap badge of the regiment, the grenade taken from Napoleon's troops, a grenade with 17 flames. Let's enjoy it. And we see the drummer making his way to the right-hand side of the escort for the colour. And at the end of this quick troop, we will hear him play the drums and give the instruction to the escort for the colour to prepare to go and receive the colour. And it's a signal to the captain of the guard to hand over to the subaltern. While the bands take their position in the middle of the parade, it will be all eyes on the lone drummer, drummer Alistair Walker, to give that word of command. A sergeant from his regiment, the Grenadier Guards. And the drummer will return to the band, his job done, the instruction, reminding us that music was used on the battlefield to send words of command across the chaos of fighting. So the escort for the colour, under the command of the subaltern of the escort, Captain Archie Denison Smith, will now march forward to collect the colour. They'll have to come straight forwards and then turn to the left. And then we'll have great fun watching as they just miss the band that gets out of the way just in time. And then they'll form up directly in front of the colour. There it waits. After months of training, going back to Easter, this is the moment. And the marvellous spin wheel as the bands play the British Grenadiers. And indeed, the British Grenadiers now come forward, the King's Company, as escort for the colour in a few moments, to take possession of the colour of the 1st Battalion. Led by the subaltern, he'll call them to a halt. The ensign behind, who will collect the colour shortly. And at the back, the regimental sergeant major with his drawn sword. The only time a warrant officer carries a drawn sword on parade. They'll now do their dressing again to make sure that they're all in line in order to take possession of their colour. It is the treasure of their battalion. It means the soul and heart of the regiment. And from the back of the parade will march the regimental sergeant major with his drawn sword. And as he passes the ensign will follow him, and they'll go forward to the colour. The regimental sergeant major will take possession of the colour from the colour sergeant, who's been protecting it with those 2 sentries. He'll then turn. The ensign, who will then be in position, will salute the colour before he takes possession of it. And when he has the colour, the ensign will then turn to the escort for the colour. It will receive a royal salute, and the escort will become the escort to the colour. This is the moment for which the ensign has been training. Second Lieutenant Alec Goshen, the chance to serve his regiment. After his salute, he must now find the mouth of the scabbard and drive the sword home. Then prepare to receive the colour. He turns. And at the corners, the sergeants put their rifles to the high port. The escort to the colour, having received the colour of their regiment. This tradition, which goes back to the earliest times of marching past all the troops so that they recognise the colour, the soul of their regiment, and they know where it will be stored overnight in a time of danger. The King's birthday parade is called Trooping the Colour, and we'll now witness that trooping take place. Meanwhile, the King watches on as his company, King's Company, will troop the colour that he gave to his 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards only on Tuesday. All the battle honours of the regiment. The King took time yesterday to travel down to visit the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards and to thank them for the efforts that they have made in preparing and telling them how proud he was of their service going back to the time of his forebear in 1656. He made clear to each of them that he took the privilege of being their company commander extremely seriously, and they gave him a present of some dress slippers with his badge as their company commander. The relationship was also referred to by the King, as he said, when his life came to an end, it is the responsibility of King's company to carry him to his place of rest. And it was King's company, then called Queen's company, who took Elizabeth II to her place of rest at her funeral. The Grenadiers' Slow March, which was adopted in the year 1815, having repulsed the French Imperial Guard at Waterloo. And that's when the 1st Guards became the Grenadier Guards. As escort to the colour, number 1 Guard comes back into line with the colour now trooped, and the company commander takes command again. He's called the captain of the King's Company because the actual company commander is, as I say, the King. So the captain takes command again of the King's Company as it concludes trooping the colour. The escort will advance. The field officer and brigade waiting will get all his guards to form divisions in order to do the march past in quick and slow time. First of all, the officers move into position and the colour doesn't go round, but it goes straight through the guard to its position at the rear. But it will come forward in order to be lowered to the King as they pass in slow time. And as the guards move into divisions, the music Galanthia will be played, a traditional tune by the Corps of Drums. And when in position, these divisions will all turn and face the direction of travel, which is towards us and anti-clockwise around this parade ground. Forming threes in order to be better positioned. mass bands taking their position at the centre of Horse Guards Parade in order to play the regimental marches as each of the regiments and guards pass by His Majesty the King. Meanwhile, they play the slow march, Mollendorf's Parade March as it's known, from 1817, named after a decree from the Prussian King, Frederick Wilhelm, to the Prussian army. And it echoes that tradition today. Shortly, the King will stand in order to take this salute on his birthday with the Queen and the Princess of Wales. Meanwhile, approaching from his left-hand side, led by the field officer in brigade waiting, are the guards 1 to 6, and at the front of the escort to the colour will come the ensign, and he will lower the colour in salute to the King, and we'll get a chance to read the battle honours, including the oldest from 1680, the Battle of Tangier. Doubtless you'll be able to pick out Waterloo, a number of battles from the First and Second World Wars, and also the Gulf from 1991. A regiment with history going back 370 years, in salute to the King, their Colonel-in-Chief, who is not only their Colonel-in-Chief, but is company commander of the escort to the colour, the King's Company. And the Grenadier Slow March, Scipio, by George Frederick Handel, as the colour is lowered. Number 2 Guard, formed from Number 2 Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards. And Number 3 Guard, formed by 9 Megan Company, 2nd Battalion Grenadier Guards. And finally, from the Grenadiers, Number 4 Guard, Inkerman Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards. The music will change now for Number 5 Guard, which is formed by the Irish Guards, numbers 9 and 12 companies, Irish Guards. And then we see in our picture Number 6 Guard, formed by Number 7 Company, Coldstream Guards, with their red plumes. for them, Figaro by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Slow march music now moves on to Nairak, George Cross, and it reflects upon the life of a Grenadier Guards officer who was killed in 1977. He won the George Cross after being taken by the IRA and held by them for some time, enduring enormous, one presumes, hardship, and he is remembered by the regiment. It was not for some time before his family knew his fate, and in the end, his foe respected his courage and bravery, and he was awarded the George Cross, and we remember him today at this trooping for his regiment. The field officer in brigade waiting will give the command to break into quick time. But when he gives that cautionary break into quick time, you will then be able to count 4 paces before he shouts, "Quick march." And imagine the delight for all these guardsmen. They can swing their arms and really get the pace going. They've been standing still, after all, for quite a long time. Let's watch as that word of command is given by Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith. And the quick march is called Arnhem, recalling the noble fight for the bridge at Arnhem by the 2nd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment under the command of then Colonel John Frost. He went on to become General John Frost, and he is something of a legend in the story of the British Army. His courageous way of holding the bridge for far longer than was expected, very much a part of a battle known as the Bridge Too Far. And it was during that great move, audacious move into Nazi Germany's controlled area of Europe, that the Grenadier Guards played their part. And let's recall the courage of those in the Second World War. precise and legal violence against the King's enemies if anyone brings a threat to the United Kingdom and its people. And watch as these guards now reform into the L shape that has dominated this parade. The officers will now take post. And the colour will come back through the centre of escort to the colour. It's been a big day for the ensign there. He has been preparing this, as I say, for some time, and it's a challenge to make sure that at Trooping the Colour, if you're chosen as ensign, that you bring the greatest respect onto the regiment. We now have the dressing again, eyes right, eyes left, depending on where they are on the positions, and meanwhile, the mass bands clear the centre of the parade ground to the tune played by the Corps of Drums Household Brigade. Their director of music. The two drum horses, Perseus and Apollo, come forward. And meanwhile, the walk march of the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery, who with their guns take precedence over all other regiments of the army. Their guns are their colours. With sadness, we note the absence of the 5th and 6th guns because of the death of one of their number. She was killed at the Royal Windsor Horse Show, and therefore 2 guns absent in respect of their loss. And the regimental walk march of the Life Guards. And then the regimental walk march of the Blues and Royals. We'll now hear the trumpeter bring them to quick march. First of all, the slow march, the Royals, which was a tune published in 1952 and used up until the amalgamation of the regiments in 1969. Listen for the trumpet. And the horses know what that means. A chance for them to show their best. And just imagine, if you were there, the sound of the cuirasses, that's the armour these soldiers wear, and also the reins and the hooves and the gravel. Just enjoy this trot past. The music, being led by the director of music there, is called Colts and Fillies, and he wrote it, Major Collis Smith's own composition. And the Keel Row, first published in 1770. Regimental trot past of both the King's Troop and Household Cavalry. And as the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery leave us, let us remember Lance Bombardier Kiara Sullivan, who was killed this year at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. We remember her, and we wish she was with us today. A salute from the drum horses as the band of the Household Cavalry now clear horse guards with a salute. Perseus and Apollo, they've done very well. Head down there a bit. Not long now till back to Knightsbridge Barracks and probably a good bag of hay. It takes the troopers and musicians about 4 hours work a day to look after their horse, to prepare the kit, and they get to know their horse very well, and very close relationships are formed. The director of music leading there. Next year, he'll become the Senior Director of Music of the Household Division. We've listened to plenty of his music as a composer. Once the Household Cavalry are back in their position by the Guards Memorial, the Field Officer in Brigade Waiting will give instructions to the Guards to get them ready for the march off. It's an administrative process where they will be taken from the L shape into the formation required for their march off. And there are the marks all over the Guards Memorial, reminding us of the Blitz. The endless bombing of London by the Luftwaffe under the command of Goering and the instructions of Hitler. A royal salute for the King. And a happy official birthday to the King with this salute from the colour of the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards as the whole parade has made their final salute to His Majesty on his official birthday. Clock strikes 12 o'clock. You're watching Sky News and the King's birthday parade from Horse Guards in London. As the parade has taken place and the troops are now going to be prepared for the march back to the palace. And ever since 1913 and a development of King George V, who felt it was important that as sovereign he should lead his troops back from this parade. So the King and members of his family will lead their troops who have performed Trooping the Colour back to Buckingham Palace, where he will receive a further salute at the conclusion of this remarkable annual parade. The Field Officer in Brigade Waiting giving his commands. And although his horse is called Jumping Jack, I think it's been a very calm and steady mount for this parade. Watch the guards formed now in threes. One horse can get a little distracted, but always wants to be back with the other troops. And they'll march away from us again, the troops, as the band of the Household Cavalry waits in Horse Guards approach. As they march away, prepare for their turn again. The senior drum major brings the other drum majors to a point of preparation. The troops have turned. The field officer in brigade waiting, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith, will, when he's ready, turn and trot up to His Majesty the King and ask him for permission to march off. And at the entrance to Horse Guards Approach Road, the Garrison Sergeant Major will give a signal when he's ready, and he knows that members of the royal family have passed down to Buckingham Palace. The procession of carriages from members of the royal family and other vehicles that take them back to Buckingham Palace for the return. The parade ground virtually reorganised now, ready for the march off. And what's marvellous when they do march off is that the crowd generally breaks into spontaneous applause for the men and women of the household division who have delivered this outstanding drill in a tradition that goes back, as I say, to when this parade ground was a tilting yard in the days of the Tudors, and certainly in the time of Queen Elizabeth I. We have records of military events taking place here. Your Majesty, may I have your leave to march off, sir, please? He's wearing on his right shoulders the golden epaulets to say that he is today an ADC to the King. Your Majesty's guards are formed up and ready to march off. And the King has given his permission. As the field officer in brigade waiting returns to the troops, the carriage, the Ascot Landau in which the King came to the parade ground, will return to collect His Majesty and the Queen. And beside the King, watching all through this parade, is the Prince of Wales with the blue sash of the Order of the Garter, then his uncle, the Duke of Edinburgh, with the green sash of the Order of the Thistle of Scotland, and then at the far end, the Princess Royal, the King's sister, wearing the uniform of Colonel of the Blues and Royals. The ensign awaits the instruction to take up the colour once more, and it is the duty of the escort to the colour to become the King's Guard at Buckingham Palace at the end of this parade. So it's a very long parade for them, and then they go on guard for 24 hours and take post, as the ensign will, as the commander of the guard at St James's Palace, Her Majesty the Queen as Colonel Grenadier Guards, wearing her adapted uniform. King as Colonel-in-Chief, who's watched his company, the King's company, perform the duty of escort to the colour at Trooping the Colour. And the Princess of Wales will make her way to the second Ascot Landau. And these Ascot Landau's will be in use next week at Windsor when the King and Queen entertain their guests for the racing at Ascot from Tuesday through till Saturday. And the Queen always likes a flutter. She enjoys her horse racing. And I'm sure she'll have had some advice from some of the jockeys. They love telling her who to put her money on. With the Princess of Wales in her Ascot Landau, the parade is ready for the Field Officer and Brigade waiting, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith, to give the command to your duties, quick march. The Irish Guards have played their part in this parade, and the Princess of Wales has her children with her now for the return to Buckingham Palace. The Royal Standard flying out above Horse Guards as it has been throughout this parade. It shows that there's a lovely breeze for those on parade and intermittent sunshine. It's a perfect summer's day. So for the march off, the first music will be Wellington, and will be followed by Queen's Company and the Inkerman March. Waiting for the word of command from Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith has instructed, to your duties, quick march. And as the mass band follow off down the Mall, the King will take the lead of his troops back to Buckingham Palace as they fall in behind. And the King's own company following first. It is extraordinary that it is not since 1936 that the King's company has formed the escort to the colour, and then it did so for the King's great-uncle, King Edward VIII, on the only Trooping the Colour of his reign. In 1981, it was at this part of Horse Guards when the Trooping the Colour took place on exactly the same date, the 13th of June. And Lance Corporal Alec Galloway leapt to protect Elizabeth II when someone fired shots towards the Queen. And all those years on, Lance Corporal Galloway looks back upon that date. It's the 45th anniversary of his immense courage at taking on what he thought was an assassin of Elizabeth II on this very part. And as the King passes by that spot today, it is always remembered that the courage of even the streetliners is sometimes put to the test on an event like this. The King and Queen coming through Horse Guards Approach Road, and will turn shortly towards the Mall, and there are the King's brother and sister and Prince of Wales and the Princess of Wales with her 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. The Princess is wearing St Patrick's blue as Colonel, Irish Guards. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the Duchess of Edinburgh is just about to return. The Duchess of Edinburgh with the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester and Sir Tim Lawrence and other members of the royal family who are watching the parade and are working members will alight from their carriages and make their way up to the centre room where the balcony cover is waiting, and they'll come out and watch the King return. And following on from their sovereign, all 6 guards and past the Royal Air Force. First year that all 3 services have played their part in delivering streetliners to this annual ceremony. A reminder that all 3 that long line all the way across Horse Guards, just checking, as medals are so treasured by the soldiers who've earned them. Meanwhile, the other senior colonels and equerries follow on at the back of the King's procession, the last to leave. And we remember always, as we see the soldiers going to battle, the memorial to those who did in the end, have to give their lives in service to the nation, and the wreaths of the 5 regiments of foot guards stand sentinel beneath their representative soldiers in bronze. Senior officers on their way down from Horse Guards in order to watch the event, the Chief of the Defence Staff, the Chief of the General Staff, the Deputy Chief of the Defence Staff, who will make their way down. And it's their chance with their principal guests, doubtless allies of the United Kingdom. Whether or not they have the Secretary of State for Defence with them, I don't know. He has much to be addressing himself with, having recently taken over. Dan Jarvis, but he will have been watching with the senior officers who command and for the United Kingdom. This annual day has been marked. You can see the saluting base has been prepared for the King here at Buckingham Palace as the barouches are taken out of the quadrangle after delivering the Duchess of Edinburgh, Sir Tim Lawrence and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. And there are the in-pensioners of Chelsea. Now, look at the medals, look at the experience of those fine members of the Royal Hospital Chelsea. They really are the most wonderful characters. If you get the chance to go and pay them a visit, both men and women who are now the in-pensioners, they have a story or two to tell, and their eyes will have been picking up some points today from the younger generation. Meanwhile, down towards Buckingham Palace, halfway down, the mass bands who fill right from one side to the other of the Mall. It's a wonderful sight from Buckingham Palace, and Queen Victoria is looking down from the great birthday cake memorial at the centre of the roundabout there. She is staring as she does down the Mall towards Admiralty Arch that was placed there during the reign of her son, Edward VII. And the Mall itself was a place for playing a game called Pelle Melle, which was a game of throwing silver metal balls onto the ground and seeing who can get closest to the centre. It's still played quite a lot in Paris. Meanwhile, the mounted band of the Household Cavalry Regiment. Let's listen to the crowd as they give reaction to the King and Queen. So the Blues and Royals, who are part of what was the Sovereign's escort, at the front there, and the farriers. You see the black plume and the axe is carried. The term poleaxed comes from that. They use the little spike at the front of the axe, at the back of the axe, to dispatch a horse that's been wounded in battle. And the axe itself was in battle used to remove the hoof, which had a number on it, and the trooper would be able to take that hoof in order to get a new horse. And the planting is always so beautifully done around the Queen Victoria Memorial. The great South Africa gate in the distance, and there the band of the Household Cavalry with their gold coats, paid for by the City of London at the restoration of the monarchy in 1660. Therefore, gold coats are worn only when members of the royal family are present, or the Lord Mayor of London. Shortly, the troops will appear as they come down from the Mall to arrive at Buckingham Palace. And it's just glimpses, really, that we can get across the crowd of this approaching parade, coming for its conclusion and its farewell to the King and his chance to thank them for this birthday present on behalf of all the armed forces. And wherever the armed forces are serving, the United Kingdom or across the world, It is as though they are being represented by the service people we can see here on the Mall and who've taken part. This is a collective happy birthday on behalf of the nation to the head of state. As the mass bands come close, and those mobile phones, they don't miss it. Yesterday, when the King went to visit his company, the King's company, he said how he and the Queen have been listening to the drum beat as they prepare, and now he knows why, he's seen why. When she was 16 years old, Elizabeth II, as Princess Elizabeth during the Second World War, was made by King George VI, her father, Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. She held that appointment from 1942 until she acceded to the throne in 1952. And then, throughout her reign, was Colonel-in-Chief of that regiment and always held a close bond with them. And it was her company who carried her to her rest. That responsibility that, as the King pointed out to his own troops only yesterday, will one day be theirs. It's a very close bond, and the King has secured it today. The King's carriage will come to a halt by the centre gate, and His Majesty will alight and take his position on the dais in order to take the final march past and rank past of his troops. And coming into view there, the Prince of Wales and the Field Officer and Brigade waiting, who's just commanded the parade, close to the King to see its end. The King is met by the Master of the Household, Vice Admiral Sir Tony Johnson-Burt, and he's escorted to his saluting base by Colonel Ed Launders, the Comptroller of the Lord Chamberlain's office. With the King in place now, the troops will march past. First of all, a salute from his brother and sister, and by the Princess of Wales and his grandchildren. It's a family day today. Salutes from his equerries, including Colonel Eric Bridge, who used to command the King's Troop and is now the Crown Equerry. The Major General commanding the Household Division, who is Regimental Lieutenant Colonel Grenadier Guards, saluting his sovereign there, as the troops now have their chance to say a final happy birthday to the sovereign. Number 2 guard passes first, followed by number 3 guard. And number 4 guards. Meanwhile, number 1 guard, the escort to the colour, have now gone into the quadrangle where they will form the King's Guard, because there's a changing the guard ceremony to come. Numbers 5 and 6 guards also passing by. Meanwhile, on the balcony, members of the royal family will shortly come and join the king and witness this event, those who witnessed it from the balcony at Horse Guards Parade. And we can see up on the balcony, watching the king as he takes the salute, Sir Timothy Lawrence, the Duchess of Edinburgh, the Duke of Kent, who was Colonel Scott's Guards for many years, and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. And members of the royal household's royal muse passing by, and other members of the retinue that followed the king in salute. Just seen the colonels go past. Colonels of the regiment who are not members of the royal family. And now the household cavalry will rank past. And they will head in a different direction as they are heading back to Knightsbridge Barracks. And the horses know exactly what's waiting for them at Knightsbridge Barracks. They'll be tremendously spoiled. Lots of sugar lumps, I think. Sugar lumps, fresh water, all that horse furniture will be taken off them. They'll be washed, and they'll get a chance to relax and spend the afternoon in peace and quiet as the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery and the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery will fire a 41-gun salute for the King's official birthday very shortly from Green Park. And we will hear those shots being fired as the King comes to the balcony later on. The guns, which were developed from lessons learnt in the Boer War, were fired during the First World War. As the Prince of Wales looks on, wearing the uniform of Colonel, Welsh Guards. And now, with their salute to the King, the Household Cavalry. The senior regiment of the British Army, the Life Guards. Their colonel was on parade today, Lieutenant General Sir Edward Smith Osborne. Those heavy cuirasses and the Albert helmet, which was designed by Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, as the Blues and Royals with their blue tunics and red plumes, and And there's Princess Anne there, Colonel. If you look closely, she's holding a gold-tipped stick today. She's gold stick in waiting, an appointment that makes her responsible today for the King's safety. So the King's last salute will come from the director of music and the musicians of the Household Cavalry, with that famous salute from the drum horses. And there go our two favourite drum horses, Perseus and Apollo. I'm surprised they aren't going faster. I'm sure they're longing to return to their stables. It's been a long parade, but it's the third week in a row that they have played their part in this parade. The King returns to his carriage, where the Queen is waiting. And the carriage with the escort of the Field Officer and Brigade Waiting who commanded the parade. You can see Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith with Prince of Wales, the Duke of Edinburgh, and the Princess Royal will lead the King on in. Garden Gate of Buckingham Palace open for today, as a royal salute is given to the King by the escort to the colour and the King's Guard. The last person there saluting with the white feathers just at the front of the team there. The Major General commanding the Household Division, he has been responsible, along with others of his staff who follow on behind, for delivering for the King the King's birthday parade. Inside, they all dismount from their horses. There are a lot of carrots waiting, I can tell you that. There's a tray of carrots, and each of those who have been riding their horses, there'll be someone there to take the horse from them. There'll be a dismounting block. Meanwhile, members of the royal family going inside. They'll wait in the centre room until the King and Queen arrive for the balcony appearance later on. But meanwhile, the area in front of the palace will clear of musicians, and the ceremony of changing the guard will take place. On the left-hand side, behind those horses, are the existing King's Guard, formed by the Royal Artillery. And on the right, you can see our friends, the escort to the colour, who've become the new guard. And in there is the colour that was trooped. It takes a bit of time to organise this area in front of the palace, remove the troops, but meanwhile, down the Mall will be coming those who have been witnessing this parade and want to come and watch. And everyone is allowed to leave the stands and walk across the parade ground. And they get a chance to see what's taken place. There are quite a lot of signs of the horses having been passed, but there is a special machine that comes down that scoops all that up, known affectionately as the pooper scooper machine by the soldiers as it comes rushing down, and does a very effective work in cleansing the Mall. The Mall is very carefully made tarmac. It's mixed with a special iron which makes it red. There's a sort of red carpet towards Buckingham Palace. As soon as the guests of the Household Division have made their way down, some of them aren't in much of a hurry, I must say. Plenty to talk about, of course, but all those who've been hiding underneath the canopy of the trees on the Mall, and there are plenty of people who come every year to enjoy the music of the bands, will find their own way down to the parade. And meanwhile, at bases all over the country, the preparation of the fly past will have begun. We're going to see Chinooks, Phantoms, Texans, Voyagers, Typhoons, Rivet Joints, and Hawks of the Red Arrows make their way down. The police will gradually take control of this mall in order to get the crowds down. What a wonderful sight. A beautiful day here in London. Who knows? The time is 12:37 on Big Ben, so it must be right, looking across a wispy sky which has protected the troops. And we wait for the King's appearance from the balcony when that time comes. Meanwhile, after the horses have been given their carrots, the senior officers will make their way up to the centre room where there's a little tray of drinks. I'm sure they're all lemon squash or something like that. It's probably all they need. And meanwhile, clearing up the soldiers who are no longer in their ceremonial dress, removing the steps that the King used earlier on. Troops from the Household Division in their more usual uniform for doing their training and preparing for war.
Are you sure?
Yes. If I need to sit down a bit, I'll borrow it for a while and then I can come.
Squeeze me.
No, that's okay.
The Union flag is made of 3 crosses, the Cross of St. George, the white saltire of St. Andrew, and still being flown. And then when the Act of Union with Ireland took place in 1800, they added a red saltire too. But to give Scotland precedent, as it had been in the Union earlier, the precedents gave the Scottish saltire precedence in the hoist, so it's slightly fatter white band to the higher point at the hoist, and in the fly, the red comes to the fore. And the palace itself, where inside, it's quite a long walk from the King's door, where the King will have been with other members of his family, to get up to the centre room on the north wing, which was built by Blore. It was put there by Blore because Queen Victoria had 9 children and there was no space for the nurseries. And so where once Marble Arch stood, it was the formal entrance to Buckingham Palace, has now been moved to where it sits north of Hyde Park. They built this great frontage to Buckingham Palace. And it was redressed with the appearance you see now, designed by Sir Aston Webb in 1913. And the Kaiser came with King George V and Queen Mary to the unveiling of Queen Victoria's memorial with the new Aston Webb frontage of the palace behind.
Do you want me to make it shorter? I'm okay. You okay?
And it's been a wonderful day for the King. He is the company commander of the King's Company who performed so brilliantly today as the escort to the King. The King went to see them only yesterday, the day before, and spoke directly to his soldiers and did so with the affection of being their company commander.
I think all the kits kit ordered. But the escort did the ceremonial right turn once they collected the escort.
Covered in goose droppings, I think it's got ribbons. And you didn't have to clean too much kit after it.
It's a unique relationship between the monarch and this company, and ever since King Charles II chose to be the company commander, every sovereign, he is the 16th, has been company commander. And so plenty of pictures, I think, really of previous company commanders, his mother, his grandfather, his great-uncle, and his great-great-grandfather, and going on back through history. And that close bond is very much felt. He said in his address to them that they had done so much to prepare for this battle and for any battle that had taken place, and he was proud of their history, going all the way back through time, looking at the equipment that today's soldiers use. And he was pointing out to them how one of their responsibilities is to carry him to his rest.
Well, what is now ensuing is a brief interlude after what has gone pretty much without a hitch. This year's ceremonial marking of the King's birthday, trooping the colour. We are now awaiting the senior members of the royal family to appear on the Buckingham Palace balcony, where they will be joining other members of the royal family who have already assembled, including Sir Tim Lawrence, the Duchess of Edinburgh, the Duke of Kent, the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. But we await, of course, the King and Queen, also the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, of course. They will be coming on to the balcony to greet well-wishers who have come specifically to witness the pageantry of today. And they will be listening for the 41-gun salute, which will take place from Green Park. 21-gun salute, of course, the standard number of rounds fired to honour a head of state or to mark a significant occasion. In addition, the next 20 to signify that those rounds were coming from one of the royal parks, in this case, the Green Park. The King and Queen and members of the family on the balcony will then be awaiting the flypast, including the red arrows. That will be happening at about 1 o'clock. But for the very many who have turned out and lined along the Mall and indeed as close as they can get to Buckingham Palace, this pageantry will not have left them disappointed. Let's get a little bit of reaction now from royal commentator Jenny Bond. Very good afternoon to you, Jenny. I know you've been watching proceedings unfold, seemingly without a hitch from what we've been able to see from our vantage point, and possibly the most significant ceremonial day in the royal calendar.
Oh, it is. It's a big day. It's a big formal occasion, but it is also, to an extent, a family occasion as well. And it's a chance for us all to gawp at the children in particular, doing what they're going to be doing for the rest of their lives, being on parade on this day of the year. And I think it's actually a glorious day. I've been to so many of them. And I think it doesn't really matter what you think about monarchy or what you think about the royal family. It's a fantastic spectacle. It really is. All those horses' hooves thundering, the bands playing, 1,000 soldiers on parade. I mean, I used to stand there, obviously reporting there on my official duties, but I couldn't help but my feet tap to the bands and the rhythm of the drums. It is a wonderful spectacle, which is why so many people turn out, come rain or shine, every year. And today it was absolutely glorious, wasn't it?
Wasn't it just? And as the King reflects on the year that has been, what do you think he'll be thinking?
He'll probably be thinking, I'm really, really hot, and I hope they're mixing my martini as the carriage goes through the gates. But seriously, yes, it's been one hell of a year, obviously, as we all know, a hell of a couple of years, really. And I think occasions like this do, to an extent, press the reset button. We see the royals doing what the royals do. You know, sometimes it sounds trite, but I think it does kind of represent the continuity, the stability of monarchy when all else around us is changing, not least in the world of politics. The King and the Queen march on. And I think that says something. We probably don't recognise it in our consciousness, but in the background you kind of think, oh, well, there they are. And of course, this does represent, and with all that's going on with the defence budget, this does represent the very close ties between the King and the armed forces, the ties between the monarchy and the military. And that's an important statement too.
It's been a busy year, hasn't it, for the King and the Queen, particularly the King. A lot of high profile, anything's high profile where he appears, but of course his visit to the United States, it's been a busy time.
No, it really has. He is out and about, honestly, most days of the week. And not just around London, but all over the country. He was up in Grimsby this week, and then, as we saw, addressing some of the soldiers later in that same day. He's really busy, and Camilla too has been carrying out a lot of engagements. And this is a time of year when there are a lot of formal engagements. I mean, on Monday there's the Garter ceremony, and then there's Royal Ascot, which, yes, it's horse racing and they enjoy it, but nevertheless they're going up and down that mile in their carriages and being gawped at by everyone. So to an extent, again, they're on parade. And then will come, in a couple of months' time, a quiet period when they will be never off duty if you're the monarch, but at least a period when they can catch their breath and be up at Balmoral.
Knows the inner workings of these ceremonies and events. Jenny, what will be happening now? The King and the Queen will be going into Buckingham Palace. They will be, just talk us through what happens from when they arrive back there before they appear on the balcony.
Well, I think they all breathe a great sigh of release that it's all gone off pretty well. I should think they are quite warm, to say the least, so they'll need some drinks. I mean, I joke about the martini, but I don't know what they'll drink. Probably a lot of water and some refreshments. And the soldiers, of course, will be having refreshments too, because I know how hot they get under those bearskins. I was in the palace once when one of the colonels came into the room I was waiting in, and he took his bearskin off, and I mean the sweat was dripping down his face, and he just gulped down a pint of water. So they'll all need a little bit of sustenance, and then they'll come out on the balcony, and that's always another highlight. The crowd can get relatively close, as you know. They'll all come down the Mall and be right outside the palace gates. And then we will see the working members of the royal family there, who total 11. I don't know if they'll all be there. We've already seen the Duke of Kent, who is 90, so he's going to be there. I don't imagine we'll see Princess Alexandra. But the rest of them, obviously minus Andrew, minus Harry, the working royals will be there. And they always love the fly past. And it's a great chance to see the kids' reaction, actually, because Louis particularly, you know, he's always so interested in it, as is George. So it's another great moment for the crowd, and a big moment for the royal family, a statement of this is the core group, working royals, here we are doing our stuff. I think it's a moment they enjoy as well, because it's quite some view from that balcony. Not that I've actually stood on it, but from the pictures I've seen, it's quite some view looking down on the thousands of people below.
And the vast majority, Jenny, who are there are there in support of the royal family, or they're interested as tourists in the pageantry that we've just been witnessing. But there are a small number of people who turn out every year, aren't there, as a Republican protest?
Yes, the Republican group will be there. I saw their leader, Graham Smith, rather protesting this morning that they were being kept away from the main ceremonies, which perhaps they are, I don't know. But they're making a point, and they've made a big splash over the past year. They have been quite prominent in their protests. And, you know, you can't get away from the fact that actually the royal family, according to most opinion polls, the monarchy has lost some popularity. Charles has got a big job, and William too after him, to keep it relevant, which is a word they do use a lot, keep it engaged and engaging with the younger generation particularly. They've got a job on their hands, but I think occasions like today do state what they're about, and that most people really do like this kind of pomp and pageantry. I'm not sure William really does. I know he's not terribly keen on the Garter ceremony, which happens on Monday, when he does have to dress up in great big plumes and cloaks, and I mean, they do look as if they're in a pantomime, really. And I'm not certain that occasions like that will have just the same grandeur when he is king. But this occasion, I think, is important to all of them, because it is not so much about them, really, although it's the king's official birthday. It's really about the military.
Yes, indeed. But he is not just king of the United Kingdom, is he? He is king of a number of other, I think, 14 Commonwealth nations as well. How is this being observed around the world in the Commonwealth nations?
Well, it will be beamed around the world. Of course, it happens every year, so there's nothing new about it. But I think there will be interest in the realms and territories that he is still king of. So the pictures will be beamed there. Perhaps they're not all sat around their televisions or whatever, watching as I and others have been. But it will make news around the Commonwealth, certainly.
And we've seen, as we have in previous years, a sort of a delegation, greater delegation, perhaps, towards the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Yes. Well, the Princess of Wales was sitting on the dais as well as she was last year. She is, of course, Colonel of the Irish Guards, and she takes that role very, very seriously, as does Camilla. I thought Camilla's uniform dress, which was inspired by the Grenadiers, of which she is colonel, was inspired indeed. It was wonderful. But yes, the Princess of Wales takes her association with the military very, very seriously. But as far as the crowds are concerned, I mean, they just really want to see this. You have to say they're quite a cute family. They are quite cute, aren't they, those three kids? And they were dressed rather to complement, I thought, their mother's pale blue and white outfit. So the boys had pale blue ties on, and Charlotte looked incredibly elegant and grown up in her white dress. And all terribly well behaved, which was probably a disappointment to the crowd, because I think everyone looks out for Louis maybe sticking his tongue out or something. But I didn't notice any misbehaviour from the children. No,
it's not too late, though, is it? We haven't seen them appear on the balcony yet. I'm sure we'll be eagerly looking for that when they do appear. But as you were saying, it's important, isn't it, for the children to witness this, to be part of it, particularly the future King, Prince George?
Yeah, I mean, you wonder what goes through that young boy's head. He's about to become a teenager, but he sees his future before him, as indeed does William. They know that this is what they are going to be doing, events like this and this particular parade, every year for the rest of their lives. And it's a big thing to take on board, but I think that William certainly gets it now. I mean, when he was young, when he was, in fact, George's age, I spoke to his mother, Diana, about how William was and how he felt. And she said that he felt at that stage that the burden of kingship weighed very heavily on his shoulders. That was her words. But she also said that he's all right. He's all right, William, and the country's very lucky to have William. And I think he's completely at ease now with his future role. And it no longer seems insensitive to talk about King William, because obviously when he's king, his father will have died, but that doesn't seem insensitive to talk about, because I think we are in very much a transitional mode, where we're seeing such a high-profile role, not only from the king, but from William himself. So I think George will be witnessing all of that, taking it in, and assessing what he thinks of it. What he actually thinks of it, I really don't know. He's probably a bit like his dad at this stage of his life, feeling, heck, this is a big old job I've got ahead of me. And with no choice. I mean, I think that's what's so sad if you're born into this role, this weird role and destiny, that you don't have a choice. He can't chat with his fellow schoolmates if he goes wherever he goes, Eton or wherever, and say, you know, what are you going to be doing? What do you want to do in life? Because he knows what he's got to do in life. And that's not so easy, is it, really?
No, it isn't. Being born into it, as you say, he has no choice. Well, we are awaiting the senior members of the royal family to appear on that balcony. Jenny, for now, thank you very much indeed, as ever. I'm going to hand you back now to Alistair Bruce, who is going to talk us through what now ensues as we await the royal family appearing on that balcony for the 41-gun salute and then the flypast.
We're at Buckingham Palace waiting for the appearance of the King and Queen at the end of this magnificent occasion. Here they come. Queen on the right, the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. And off to the right, the Duke of Kent, who was for many years Colonel Scots Guards. And to the left of the King and Queen, the Princess Royal, Sir Tim Lawrence, the Duchess and Duke of Edinburgh and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. And I can hear the aircraft now. First of all, the 3 Chinook, who are flying towards in salute of His Majesty the King. They've come from RAF Odium in Hampshire. This year marks the 45th anniversary of the Chinook in service with the Royal Air Force, and 27 Squadron celebrated its 110th anniversary in November last year. Wave 2 at Dakota from the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. RAF Coningsby is where it comes from. Listen to that throaty roar. The Second World War planes all had this wonderful throaty roar in their engines. And part of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. And the third wave will be a Phenom and 2 Texans. A cheer from the crowd. It's a great roar going overhead again. And then an Atlas, an A400M, comes from RAF Bryce Norton, will come after those three curl away out of the flight path to Heathrow. It has a wingspan of 42.4 metres. The aircraft can operate at high level altitudes and it carries 116 passengers, the great workhorse of the armed forces. And its roar as it turns away over the crowd shouting, "God save the King." Wave 6, we've got a Voyager and two Typhoons. Will come after Wave 5, which is a C-17 aircraft, also from RAF Bryce Norton. Also from RAF Bryce Norton. So the Voyager and Typhoon are on their way. The Voyager comes from Bryce Norton, the Typhoon from RAF Coningsby and RAF Lossiemouth, both of them. Let's listen to these roar over. I love the way they curl away in order to ensure they don't mess with the flight path into and out of Heathrow Airport, which is terribly close to London. So for young members of the royal family, a tremendous sight as now a Poseidon from RAF Lossiemouth, all the way down from Scotland, the Boeing Poseidon MRA-1, maritime patrol aircraft. And getting ready to press the button on their red, white and blue will be the Red Arrows. They'll be coming after 4 Typhoons in wave. Versatile 4th generation fighters, powered by 2 Eurojet engines. Typhoon saw combat during the 2011 military intervention in Libya. We have a rivet joint there. Spacing them all apart in order to make sure that they're safe at their different speeds. And here come the 4 Typhoons, the battle fighters. And finally from RAF Waddington, 9 Hawk aircraft of the Red Arrows, flying with 4 Lightnings based from RAF Marnham. Here they come. And it's happy birthday to the King from the Royal Air Force. with that, the King and Queen take leave. Colonel-in-Chief of the Grenadier Guards and the Colonel of the Grenadier Guards after this birthday parade. The King's 4th birthday parade as sovereign. Thus concludes the King's birthday parade for another year, the fly past being done and the balcony appearance complete. For the crowd here, it's been a wonderful summer's day. There are plenty of people with differing opinions out in the crowd, but it is an occasion when the nation celebrates itself through the head of state. And from the centre of London, with Queen Victoria looking on, it is the end of this year's King's Birthday Parade from London.
Well, thank you very much, Alistair, for talking us through every element with careful precision, detail of everything that we've been seeing as part of Trooping the Colour this year. We can bring back in now royal commentator Jenny Bond, who is in Devon for us. It's, Jenny, a wonderful culmination, isn't it, of Trooping the Colour with that Red Arrows fly past. Really went without a hitch, the whole thing this year.
Yes, as it does almost every year, but enhanced this year, I think, by the fine weather. And yes, when the red arrows go over, I mean, you heard the crowd there cheer. You saw the children look up. In fact, all the royal family look up. It's fantastic. And to have it go straight over your house must be quite amazing, wasn't it? So there's always a grand finale, which I think everyone enjoys. So there we are. That's over for another year. Hopefully, it portrays a more positive image of the royal family than we have in the lurid and sensational headlines that have dominated the press for, so long now. So perhaps, only perhaps, smoother waters lie ahead.
Yes, and very good behaviour from Prince Louis. We were looking out for that, weren't we, on the balcony?
Yes, most disappointing. He's growing up now. He's 8 years old and he knows how to behave. And, perhaps, he's almost, I've seen it all before. This happens every year. But he is growing up, and I'm sure his parents, they say, he's quite mischievous behind scenes. But then they say George is quite different behind scenes. George, who always has seemed so demure, really very well behaved. His dad had said, it's quite a different story at home. But these kids know they're on parade and what's expected of them, and they're performing their act very well.
Yes, indeed. I suppose it's human nature, isn't it? We all have a different public and private persona, but for them it's even more amplified. Of course, a celebration of the King's birthday. Jenny, just reflect for us, if you would, on the year that has been for the royal family, in particular the King.
Well, there's his public life and then his personal life, his private life, if you like, and that obviously encompasses his brother and his younger son. And those two twin problems continue. With Harry, I think there's very little communication. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I do know, because I don't. But I think there's very little communication between them. Harry is coming over in about a month's time to do the one-year countdown to the Invictus Games in Birmingham. There is speculation, will they meet this time, won't they? Would the King even take part in what's going to be happening, and maybe the Invictus Games opening ceremony in a year? All these things are up for up for discussion, but I don't think it's discussion between the two of them, sadly, yet. And then, of course, he's had to contend with the Andrew situation, which I'm afraid is not over, because the Epstein inquiry in the States is still going on. I'm sure the King is across what's going on there. We understand that when he was very recently at Sandringham, he didn't go to see his brother, who was a matter of a couple of miles away in his new home. Whether he communicated with Andrew after we saw Andrew with that great smacking bruise across his cheek and eye, I think as a brother he might have picked up the phone and seen, found out what's wrong. He probably did find out what's wrong, but whether there was a conversation between them, I really don't know. So it's sad, isn't it? We have two estranged brothers, Charles and Andrew, and two estranged brothers, William and Harry.
Yes, indeed. And as you say, no obvious signs of any improvement in those relationships. And what do we know, Jenny, about the King's health?
Well, we know, I think, that we know that he's living with cancer, that he is having a reduced schedule of cancer treatments, but there's been no indication, again, I do not know, nothing's been said officially, but there's no indication that the treatments are actually going to stop at any stage. Many people these days live with cancer and are in hopefully protracted remission from the worst symptoms. So he looks much better than he did a year ago. He does really look quite hale and hearty, given, he's in his late 70s now. And as we know, he's incredibly active and determined to get as much as he can out of this inevitable, relatively short reign. So I think, he's doing fine and just living with the disease.
Yeah, and he's been particularly busy, notably as well, I suppose you could say, a pretty high-stakes state visit to the United States at a time when the relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States has been tense.
I think there have been a number of points in this year where many of us anyway, in this nation have thought, he is doing a really good job. I think he played a blinder out there, he really did. What was it Rod Stewart said to him afterwards? You really put that little so-and-so in his place, referring to Trump, which was an awkward moment for the King, given that the conversation was picked up on microphones, and he was very diplomatic in his reaction to that remark. But I think many people might think, well, yes, actually he did. He made a most diplomatic and yet pointed speech, far more hard-hitting than most people had imagined, but couched in these delicate and diplomatic tones. That it went down very well on both sides of the pond. But I think, he stamped his foot and said, this is what we think in the United Kingdom. So I think he gained a lot of respect because of his attitude and his behaviour and his words during that visit.
There were some newspaper reports that he had expressed concern about it going ahead.
There were, and that did appear to be based on some emails, because when I heard that, I thought, well, who knows what the King thought? I mean, those who knew what he thought are not going to tell you, are they? But it did appear to be in emails, so I wouldn't be surprised. It's not very shocking, is it, to think that he viewed that trip with some trepidation, given the state of the relationship between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer at that time, and the various insults that Trump had thrown out. So, I'm sure he wouldn't be human if he didn't think, hey, is this really the right time to be going? I personally didn't think it was the right time for him to be going. I thought it could delay it till after the war with Iran had reached some kind of conclusion, and perhaps delay it till July, which is the true Independence Day in the United States. But it went ahead on schedule, not upsetting the apple cart by trying to delay it. And as I say, he really did. He did play a blinder.
Yes, and it was noted, wasn't it? I'm wondering where you think public opinion on the royal family stands, given all we've been talking about in the last 10 minutes?
Well, as I said earlier, you can't get away from the fact that the opinion polls, if you believe them, show that popularity is declining. It is nothing like as high as during his late mother's reign. Perhaps that's inevitable given the domestic problems that have been. Though, again, you could argue that the 90s, when I was reporting the BBC through all the Diana years, the tumultuous decade that the 90s were, the royal family did suffer in popularity then, but not quite as badly as it has right now. I think the Andrew situation really has taken its toll because it is so... I know he denies all the allegations, of course he must say that, but the whole tale is so unsavoury. And everything to do with Epstein is so unsavoury. And I think that has dented the popularity of the royals. But that lady there, the Princess of Wales, I think is the jewel in the crown of the monarchy. And she is so popular wherever she goes. And she is so much the regal figure of a queen in waiting, as well as being incredibly down to earth and passionate about things that matter, like our young generation, early years learning, sorting things out when kids are young so that they don't have problems when they are older. I think she's right on it, and she's right with it, and I think she does connect with the younger generation.
Yes. And as you rightly say, King Charles, his reign will be shorter than his mother's. How do you think King Charles has put his own stamp on the monarchy?
Well, I think he has brought a new, relaxed approach. I think that was shown the moment he came back to Buckingham Palace immediately after the late Queen's death, and someone said, "Can I give you a hug?" And he said, "Well, yes, yes." And so he's become quite a hugger now. He seems to hug wherever he goes. That's different. You couldn't imagine Queen Elizabeth really doing that at all. And he... Well, when you meet him, and I've obviously met him many times over the years, he has a charisma. And he's very funny and very engaging and very witty. And I think all those things have come across. I think we've got to know him much better since he's been king. And I think he's relishing the role. I think, obviously, he knows he was born to do it, and he waited a very long time for that job. And I think he is going at it with all the strength he can muster to change things, make a difference, engage with people. And we talk a lot about how William will change the monarchy, and I think he will, but we shouldn't forget that I think Charles has brought the face of monarchy much more in tune with modern life than perhaps we recognise.
Yeah, a distinctive feel to the Carolian era already. As ever, Jenny, always wonderful to have you and your perspective on the programme. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. If you are just joining us, we have been bringing you coverage of the Sovereign's official birthday, celebrated, of course, with the ceremony of the King's Birthday Parade, also known as Trooping the Colour. You can see they're culminating in the appearance of the royal family. Front and centre there, obviously, the King and Queen, but also flanked by senior members of the royal family to watch the fly past, including, of course, the iconic red arrows, which passed overhead just a short while ago. Many lined the streets all along the Mall to witness this, to witness the pageantry which is associated with this every year. We can go now to our correspondent, Graham Stoddard, who has been amongst the crowd. The many, Graham, who have turned up to witness this pageantry won't have been disappointed. Most of the people there in support of the King, coming to either honour his birthday or indeed to witness this very British spectacle of the pageantry. Not all, though, in support.
No, not all. And actually, just in the last few moments, we saw anti-monarchy protesters, a group called Republic, holding up yellow umbrellas with big writing on it that we understand said "Stop the rain. Some people did try to wrestle those umbrellas off them, but police did quite a good job of pushing them back, moving them apart, and now those umbrellas have gone. There is still some music here, and as you mentioned, there were ecstatic crowds. Perfect day for it as well, thoroughly enjoying the spectacle, the pomp, the ceremony. There were people we spoke to from Canada, from Germany, from New Zealand, Morocco, all who had come specifically to see Trooping the Colour, to celebrate the King's official birthday. So it still is really an event, and although the crowds are starting to move off, actually I think many of them still want to stay. You can see there a number of cars going past as well. I'm not sure who's in there, but earlier we saw the King alongside the Queen, other members of the royal family, part of Trooping the Colour, up and down the Mall. You can see, you can hear the cheers of the people still enjoying the tail end of this celebration. After the King and Queen came back from the Mall, the King, standing in front of Buckingham Palace, saluted a number of the horse guards, the household cavalry, before making his way up to the balcony alongside other members of the royal family to enjoy the fly past. And what a view of both the RAF planes as well as the tens of thousands of people who had gathered to celebrate here with them. At that point, actually, the people who were at that time stopped from entering the grounds right in front of Buckingham Palace were allowed through so that they could see the King, see the members of the royal family from closer up. And at that point as well, some anti-monarchy protesters, Republic, made their way up the Mall with them. Again, it all looked quite convivial. There were obviously some booing. There was some booing from people at the protesters as opposed to from the protesters at the royal family. There were some chants, stop the rain, not my king. But overall, obviously, the vast majority of people here, I'd say there were maybe dozens of people in that protest. The vast majority of people were here to see the royal family, see the pomp, see the ceremony. It seemed a number of people actually were doubling it up with a Harry Styles gig that seems to be going on at the moment. So very different forms of celebration, but each one equally spectacular, I'm sure. But today, under the blue skies here, everyone thoroughly enjoyed that I spoke to, seeing the King, seeing the Queen, someone really excited actually that they waved at the King and got a wave back. So this is still a real event, and now those thousands of people who came down and enjoyed it are starting to move off, but no doubt with a smile on their face.
Yeah, as far as pageantry goes, there's nothing else quite like it, is there, in the world? And as you say there, as far as the ceremony unfolded, all went pretty much without a hitch. For now, Graham, thank you very much indeed. Well, with the King's birthday, of course, come the honours. The rugby league star Kevin Sinfield, Dame Helen Mirren and the author Julia Donaldson are among those who've received awards in the King's birthday honours. Sir Kevin was given a knighthood in recognition of his charity work, raising more than £11 million for motor neuron disease charities, inspired by his late friend and Leeds teammate Rob Burrows.